Hello, I'm Matt Ogden and welcome to By George from Page to Stage. I'm here with writer-performer Rich Sykes. And Rich, why am I here?
Right, we are going to be doing a podcast throughout the whole of the production of By George. So as we go through the process of from script all the way to the LBT stage, we'll be doing a podcast to sort of, enlighten people as to what actually goes into the mechanics of putting a show together.
Lovely stuff. So, first things first, By George, what's it about?
By George is set in a Yorkshire chip shop. It's a musical that no one has ever seen before, and it's an idea that came to me just after I'd finished my previous musical, which is now going on 23 years ago, that we did at the Lawrence Batley Theatre. And we were going to do it the year after, and we've decided that this is the year to do it. It's the Kirklees Year of Music in 2023. And so myself, Woodhouse Operatic Society, as was, now Musical Theatre Group, and also the Lawrence Batley Theatre are co-producing the whole thing and putting it on from September the 12th in 2023.
Lovely.
The musical is, as I say, set in a chip shop. It's also got the Yorkshire pub in there. It's rooted firmly in Yorkshire. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that looks on stage.
Excellent. I mean, I can't wait to see it. I know it's been hyped for a little while now. Obviously, being part of Woodhouse myself, I've heard about it a few times. So, what was the reasoning behind setting it? Firstly, in a fish and chip shop, and then secondly, why in Yorkshire?
It didn't start out that way. This musical has been through so much over the past 23 years. It's changed from what I originally intended it to be to what it is now. It's changed position, it's changed location, and it's had to because it's more relevant these days. Chip shops are dying. You know, that the price of oil and the cost of running these things is running them into the ground. So it's a real rallying cry for chip shops everywhere, which I've loved since I was a kid. And so it's also got a lot more female empowerment and agency in it. So these things had to change because times change. And so musicals have to stay relevant with it. There's so much to see in these podcasts, and I really hope you enjoy the journey through.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
The last time I did a musical at the Lawrence Batley was 23 years ago. It was called Curtains, and it sold out. And that was so wonderful. It was one of the best. The opening night I would class as the best night of my life.
Wow!
It was stunning to hear people singing your songs on the way out of the theatre and laughing at your jokes and say, "Oh, really?" and had a good time. It's what people need right now. It's gloomy, it's miserable, and this musical genuinely isn't. It's funny and it's uplifting. Should be anyway.
Excellent. I think that's queuing us in for a good time to listen to one of the songs, maybe.
Let's have a listen. This is one of the songs from By George.
Now welcome to Yorkshire, wherever you've come from. There's more to this county than to Ernie by gum. The man who fought off slavery's our William Wilberforce. But sad to say, success eluded Yorkshire's own Guy Fawkes. From Redcar to Sheffield, from Huddersfield to Brid, we're proud of our people and most of what they did. So grow white roses and you won't see red. If we're stubborn then Oz, it is certainly 'cause we are Yorkshire, born and bred. Our accents are different wherever you may roam. They always go broader whenever we go home. And if you're just a mardy arse, I'll tell you this for nout. We'll call you a daft apeth and we'll give your lugs a clout. If you're fair to middling, we'll make you feel greatly. Your lunch is your dinner and dinner is your tea. It's not what we're saying, it's the way it's said. So come here, you're laughing, we're none of you faffing, we're Yorkshire, born and bred.
Okay, so, firstly, By George, what is it all about? You've said it's in a fish and chip shop. You've said that there's a pub. Where's the connection between the fish and chip shop and the pub? Who's George? What's going on?
Okay, so basically you want me to spoil the plot for you right now.
Tell us everything that happens in the musical so no one has to know.
I am not going to... there's no way I'm going to spoil it. But what I will say is that it's centred around a family dynamic.
Okay.
So you've got a father, You've got a mother and you've got a son. The mother is the heroine of the piece. She's the one who actually runs everything. George is the one who got gifted the chip shop as a kid. And so it's been passed down from generation to generation, all the way down the line, and he's sick of it. He can't stand his punters. He doesn't like any of them. He doesn't like working. He doesn't like doing what he's doing. And so he just swans off to the pub and leaves his wife to clean everything up.
Yeah.
So you can see that something has to change there. But there's an underlying theme here, which is the fall of empire. And it sounds massively grand, but it really is. George is a patriarch, and Pauline is the person who does all the work. So gradually, that has to smash the patriarchy and destroy empire. And the tagline for the show is the rise of a chip shop empire. It's got grand ideas, and so does Pauline.
So as she's rising up into her monarch-like role, what's happening with the son? Because you didn't mention him there.
The son has a very important part in that he's gone a bit wayward as time has gone on and his parents have left him alone.
Yeah.
So he hasn't had a guiding force, and he gets embroiled with a local lady.
Oh.
I'm gonna. Her name is Marge, and she asks him to do something. I'm going to spoil it. There's going to be a spoiler here, folks. So if you don't want to hear what happens in the first act, forward by 30 seconds. Okay? Just press forward now. Okay, what happens is she persuades him to strip at a hen night.
Right.
So he becomes a stripper. Unwillingly, but he becomes a stripper, and Pauline is unaware of it. What the lady in question, Marge, is actually doing is setting up Pauline for a fall.
Right.
Because Marge is a social media demon.
Okay.
She loves her friends on Facebook and basically wants to create gossip all the time. And this is one way she can do it. So she sets the whole family against each other. And that's what happens in the first act. Welcome back.
So, Pauline.
Yes.
Crazy mother who wants to look after the family and bring this fish and chip shop into, I assume, the 21st century?
You'd be stretched to find that it hasn't changed much since the 19th century, this chip shop. You know what chip shops are like here. The tagline for the whole musical is "Grease is the word."
Well, there you go.
So the chip shops you find, they're in huts. You know, they're small places. This is the one I've based this musical in is part of a dwelling. You know, you've got a living space upstairs and the downstairs is the chippy. So they can never get away from the smell of chip fat.
So she's bringing this fish and chip shop into like her own, and obviously you've mentioned that George is not kind of interested in it anymore. He's had it passed down generation to generation. The son's not interested.
Yeah.
And this is all about really her rise.
Pauline stands for progress. She really is. She's trying to elevate this chip shop a little higher and increase her own self-worth, really.
She sounds like a US Democrat.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And George is your fiery Trumpian Republican. So, yeah, it's all relevant. But genuinely, those were parallels that were coming to me while I was writing it.
What, Clinton and Trump?
Yeah, well, Trump was in office as I was doing it. It was it was being finished during the pandemic. And so Trump's bullying is really a central pivot of what George is about in the musical now. And Pauline isn't crazy. She's trying her best, you know, to be level-headed and keep her head above water, really. Trying to keep her family going, trying to keep the chip shop going. So it is grounded in reality, and so she.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So she's effectively fighting this warring battle between her son wanting to go off and do his own thing and getting himself in trouble with crazy Marge. I'm going to say Marge is crazy.
Marge is crazy.
So it sounds like I've misjudged Paul.
Absolute Fruit Loop.
And then George, what's he wanting to do other than just go to the pub and let go of the fish and chip shop as much as he can?
Absolutely nothing. He doesn't want to be in the chip shop. This is loosely based on a character that used to be in my chip shop at the top of my road when I was a kid. He would greet you with a fine. But there are more people like that. I don't think he was unique.
Yeah.
There are far more people like that who genuinely are just working for the hell of it.
I can think of several establishments in the Yorkshire area that I've been to where a grunt is as much as you'll get. So there'll be a lot of relatable characters in this, I imagine.
I hope so. They're relatable to me. They're the people I grew up with.
So there's going to be a lot of familiarity when people are watching this. And am I right in thinking that when you were writing the songs for this, you wanted them to all feel somewhat familiar, somewhat kind of catchy, and like you could go out of the theatre never having seen or heard any of it before and feel like there's a bit of comfort, there's a bit of home there?
If you don't, then I've failed. I love writing catchy songs. My songs don't have a great deal of musicality in terms of depth to them, but one thing they are is singable and memorable. So we've cut down the number of songs in this musical. It just seems to have been endlessly severing these songs that I've poured my heart into have just gone because of running time, because they don't fit with the show.
Yeah.
So from originally a slate of about 32 songs,
wow,
we're down to about 18 now, and they repeat throughout the show. So hopefully, with the repetitions in there as well, you should keep those songs in your head as you go out of the theatre. Theory. That's the theory.
I'm sure that will happen. But 32 songs, that's a substantial catalogue of songs for a musical, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but it has been 23 years. So if I hadn't written a song a year, then there'd be a real problem with a songwriter. They were written specifically for the show. I've written others, of course.
Yeah.
But they were written specifically for the show, and they'll be recycled. I don't mind because they're fresh ideas, so they'll just go straight into the ideas bucket. And if the well ever runs dry, then I'll go and fish one of those out, and we'll fish.
Beautiful,
Thank you
beautiful pun just placed in there.
Just in there.
So that organically brings us on to my next question, which is, when you've got the fish and chip shop and you've got the pub and you said that they're 50-50 split on stage, so they're static, there's no moving parts to the set, I'm guessing.
No. One thing I don't like about shows, and a lot of people have realised this, is that huge sets and massive set changes take an awful lot of time. And so the audience doesn't really have the patience for them these days. It's the reason you get a lot of minimal sets with black and cages and things like that, and iron and minimal sets.
I think it's time for another song, don't
I think so, don't you? Let's do another one.
Why not?
So here's again another song from By George. Enjoy.
It's your world for the taking. It's your life that you're making. Feast your eyes, raise your hands, feel the tide of your command. It's your road that you follow to your bright new tomorrow. You might lose, but you might win. There's no limits when you say it's your world for the taking. It's your life that you're making. Feast your eyes, raise your hands, feel the tide of your command. It's your road that you follow to your bright new tomorrow. You might lose, but you might win. There's no limits when you start again.
Welcome back to By George from Page to Stage. So we've just heard one of our songs that we're going to be listening to in the musical in September 2023. So how's this podcast going to be structured? What are we going to be talking about week to week?
Well, we'll be diving into the development process. I'll be giving people a progress update about what's happening. And we'll also be delving into the songs, showing how they were made, showing how they were orchestrated. So if that interests you, then go for that. We'll also be looking at choreography, and we're looking at script editing and buying props and putting them on stage, and basically figuring out how you get from a script that's been written to putting it onto the stage for people to watch.
Yep.
So from page to stage sums it up quite well. We'll be doing it over the course of about maybe 18, 20 podcasts.
Yep.
There won't be another one this year, but what will be happening is we'll take you through the casting process, the rehearsals process, and that'll begin sometime in January with a regular podcast from March all the way through the rehearsal process until September when we launch the show.
So this is quite a unique experience, really, isn't it? Because a lot of people, especially if they're involved in musical theatre, maybe on an amateur level, maybe on a professional level, they don't really get to see the ins and outs of a show being created from page to stage, literally, and they don't get to see the behind the scenes as much. So what was the kind of inspiration behind that idea?
The inspiration behind the idea for the podcast is that I like people to see the process.
Yeah.
And you're right, it is unique. This is something that's created from scratch. Often if you're doing a show as an amateur company, what you'll do is you'll take a show that's been performed professionally, and you'll adapt it for an amateur thing. This isn't what this is. The people who are cast and create this show are really creating something for the first time. There is a real magic in doing that. And I'd like that to come over in the podcast, to the excitement of having a joke that you wrote 20 years ago being performed on a stage and then people laugh at is extraordinary. It truly is magical to hear it, to hear the ripples of laughter for something that you've forgotten was funny years ago. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to people's reaction to the songs, and we can test that out on the podcast. One thing we won't do is spoil the ending. We've already spoiled the first act. That's fine. I'll cope with that. And we'll be taking you through bit by bit every single thing, because you don't know anything about the show yet, do you? So
not really, no.
You've got to find out with everyone else. And so it's interesting from that point of view. It's also interesting from the point of view of the people who are doing it, because a lot of the people who are doing this time and are part of the production team are going to be part of the cast and don't know it yet. They're going to be doing a new show for the first time. And I can't base their performance on anything. They've got to find it. So that's going to be fascinating to see. I can't wait. It's a real Frankenstein thing. It's alive, and it will feel like that. Producers and directors are often used to saying goodbye to their projects on opening night because they can't do anything else to change it. That process is so gradual for the writer. Because the writer gradually kisses goodbye to control of the project as it goes through. So you'll see me descending into this. oh, this is happening, is it? But we'll be as honest as we can in the podcast. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, then you can do so underneath. If you're on YouTube, then click the links below. You can subscribe. Make sure you like this stream as well, because that helps us project to the rest of YouTube and hopefully get a bit of buzz going for our musical.
Bit of virality.
Let's hope so. So that's it for now, folks. We'll be back next year with more of the same from this podcast by George, From Page to Stage.
Thanks very much, Rich.
Bye.